Hi guys, hi everyone. I see we are already joining our today's session, so welcome. Meanwhile, I would appreciate guys if you can write a plus in the chat if you could find it. We will also use it for for questions and our collaboration and communication. And I would also appreciate if you could share whether you can see my screen. Just a plus in the chat, or even you can unmute yourself. We don't have too much people today, so that would be both useful. So Laris, thank you so much. Chad, thank you. Alexandra, thank you as well. So seems that we are now visible and online. So yeah, guys, so let's start. I guess we are already 2 minutes past the time. So let me quickly introduce what we are going to be talking about today. Thank you guys for everybody who's put in pluses in the chat. I know that you are with us and that's great. So we are having today a webinar on the topic of the product vision, basically how it influences our product delivery, what problems it can generate, and what are usual symptoms of problems with product vision on our projects, on our products, during our delivery. So I will share a couple of cases from real life, which I've seen in my teams. Also, I would appreciate if you could, share your cases as well. So we have a chance to have a good discussion on those topics today. So feel free to, again, ask questions in chat or, raise your hand and comment with your voice. So yeah, let's make it interactive as possible. So product vision. But before that, again, let me quickly introduce myself so you know who's speaking to you today. So my name is Roman Sakharov. I'm a Senior Director of Business Analysis at EPAM, also the Head of Product Management, co-head of the Product Management Practice, and I'm co-founder and trainer at the E5 company, which is actually conducting this webinar for you. So I'm in the software development, I'm more than 14 years, so managing large department of project, product, and business analysis people. And also do have some certifications on scaled agile framework, product management, and so on. So this is just to share the fact that I would be trying to base my today's observations on my experience and as well, on the standards which we see there are out of there on the market. Couple of words regarding E5. So we are a consulting and training company, helping companies basically to build their product processes, to build their project management processes, to become more agile. And we have quite some clients as well, so whom we help, and you can find actually cases on our website. So meanwhile, again, I've introduced myself. It would be great as well to hear what is your background and to hear what is your experience with product visioning. So I would like to ask you to answer just a couple of questions. First is, what is your current role in your day job? And the second is whether you are having any experience in creating actually product visions and again, transferring and sharing them to your teams. So, and yeah, if you can write it into chat, or you can actually unmute yourself and say it just out loud. So while you're doing that, I will be reading that for you as soon as you type it. So 2 questions, right? The first is your current role, and the second was you already have experience in creating product visions. So again, if you're gonna be answering those questions, I will be reading them aloud. Just to quickly get back, to why we had an idea of creating this webinar, because while consulting, companies, we've seen multiple times when we bump into situation when the products are being created in a quite a manual mode, when you don't see a lot of visioning behind them, you don't see that big idea, and there are a lot of problems actually being generated based on that. So hopefully, after our today's talk, we will be able to identify them and to basically be able to maybe address them on our project as well. So Stan actually shared that Stan is an aspiring product manager and currently no experience in creating product vision. So Stan, I think that after our today's webinar, it would be much easier to start with the creation of the product vision, because yeah, I'll be also sharing tools and templates to start with that, and explain how to actually insert the usage of this product vision into your team. So yeah, guys, let's start with the problem, which we might see on the project. So the first sign of the problem is that your team asks, so why we are doing that, right? And for whom we are doing this stuff, right? Actually, the absence of this understanding on why and for whom is one of the first signs that you didn't do your homework on product visioning. Because if team sees the product vision, sees this final goal we are going to, they won't be asking such questions because they will have the answer in your document. The other problem that might be a symptom of the absent product vision is like when you are showing this product that you have developed for quite some time to your client or to your key stakeholder, they are asking like, what is this, guys? Like, this is not I've asked for. And team is answering like, this is what you told us to do. Like, this is what we've heard from you. So this is also another example of, this vision as a contract between the team and the key client or key stakeholder, or your actually the key manager for your team is absent. So that is another symptom. And of course, the third symptom, and we will be talking about today, is this garbage functionality. When you are just adding something to your product, which is just invented out of the blue, it has no like investigation or validation behind it. It was just, for example, seen in your competitor's product the day before, and it was just implemented right away without any analysis done for that. So again, this is yeah, we can say that this is a hypothesis validation or something else should have been done, but this is again about vision, and we will be talking about why this is about vision. So I already mentioned, right, the common root cause of these problems is absence of vision and its understanding in your team, in team of your key stakeholders. And this is actually we as product people, we as like professionals who works with products, we need to address. So basically that's the answer, right? We need to help and help our teams. We need to work on that and keep the focus on product vision. And there is a very good Japanese saying, I like to use it, all the time when I'm explaining the product vision concept to my teams, that, vision without an action is a daydream, but action without a vision is a nightmare, right? And this is again about if you just have a vision, but you do not have a resource, or you just do not have time to implement it, it's just a daydream, right? So it won't actually materialize in anything. But if you are doing something, but you do not have a clear understanding where your actions are gonna get you, this is just a nightmare, right? So it's just a chaotic list of actions that you are doing, but again, without any final result or a comprehensive result, I would say. So again, even Japanese proverbs say that it's very important. So who are we to question that? And in terms of, again, understanding the vision itself as a concept, first of all, it's an aspirational description, what your organization would like to achieve. And we can have it on multiple levels. So we can have a vision for the organization, we can have a vision for your product, for the product subset, or the product even function can have its own vision. So also a vision statement, it's again a declaration of project objectives, and ideally, of course, it uses some economical foresight. Again, and getting back to the concept, because I usually like, to start explanation by, understanding on how to understand whether you have this vision. And there is a very, this good story. I'm sure you heard about it, right? When a person goes near the construction site and he asks a very, like, not a very motivated person, like, what are you doing? And he was, oh, I'm sorry, I'm so tired, I'm just laying bricks here. So, and he goes to the next guy who is a little bit more, again, positive on what he's doing. And he asks him, like, what are you doing? I'm building a wall here. So, but he's definitely much more motivated. So, and then they go to the third, the most motivated person in that team, and they asked him, so what are you doing? So, and he is kind of, I'm building the church. So, and that's why, I know the final goal, and I'm so happy to be helping in this great thing which is happening here. So I guess, this story is the same that we are seeing behind the vision, right? This also influences our teams. So for example, when your development team, when your, again, marketing team, when any team with whom you work on your product, they do understand what is the end goal, their internal motivation is much higher, right? And they really are motivated to do what you're actually, trying to achieve. So, and if, they are just laying bricks, so most likely they will be demotivated, and they will run out of the juice very fast. So again, why do we need vision, right? So first of all, it is intended to serve as a clear guide, as already mentioned. And you can understand, right, where you are now and where you want to be with having the vision. And what is also important for, for us as managers is that it also helps us to do some internal decision making on our projects. So if we can answer the question where we are going to end up with all this work, what is our end goal? So looking into vision, we say, okay, let's take an example. So say, okay, guys, we have this, I don't know, beautiful new financial product which helps us, to build or to monitor your financial expenditures stuff. So and it will help you to know to monitor all the money you earn and all the money you spend, and help you know to kind of understand how you spend them and to optimize the spending. So which is great. And then somebody comes to you, I know this is a little bit intense, but again says, okay, maybe we can also like build a feature of the music player inside our product, right? Which is kind of weird, right? But there might be some wild ideas like that. You're saying, yeah, so sorry, but we are not building a music player or anything like that, right? We are building a financial monitoring app. So we don't need that. And our vision is quite different. And I know I'm being quite, again, intense in this example, but this is also something we might, receive from our stakeholders on our projects. When some stakeholder comes with the crazy idea, which is totally out of our scope, which is totally out of our vision, and there really should be some agreement behind all of this to basically saying, okay, guys, like probably this is not the best idea because our vision and our customer analysis says different, right? So that's why we shouldn't be taking that path. So that's the beginning. This is, why we really need those vision. Now let's talk a little bit in terms of the project itself, right? If we are talking about the phases of the project, so the first, let's say the most initial phase of that is the project start, so-called initiation phase of the project. So when you do your planning, you do the discovery, you do the product discovery, you do the requirements discovery, you try to kind of understand what you're going to build. And there are also symptoms on this phase that are showing to you that you have problems with your vision. Again, as already mentioned, if your team does not have an understanding why we are building this, right, and for whom we are building this, so that means we didn't do our homework, and we actually have to have this contract in form of a vision to explain that. The other part, of course, and fortunately, I'm seeing this less and less during last year's couple of years. So the management in style, like, just do it. Like, don't ask questions, don't ask why we are building that, just, just code it, just like deliver it. Yeah, again, as already mentioned, fortunately, we are seeing that less with the coming of agile, but still there are some cases, especially, in large enterprises, where this is still can be seen. So, and um, what are our solutions in that sense? So first, of course, considering that, I guess, 80% of projects in the world, of software projects in the world, they are using Agile. And, most of the Agile projects are using Scrum, of course. So, and even if we are referring to the very basic or even initial versions of Scrum, Mr. Schwaber in 2004, he said that, the minimum plan which is necessary to start a Scrum project consists of a vision and a product backlog. So, which is also a reflection of a product strategy, as you might know. So that's the basics. You cannot just go without it, right? It should be there. And if we are even talking, about the more mature models, about more complex models, like, for example, scaled agile framework, it is also an essential part inside of it, right? So the vision is a key description of the solution that we are planning to develop, and it reflects, the expectations of our customer stakeholders, and the features we are planning to build. And here also on the slide, you can see how many inputs do we need to take into account when we are creating vision, actually, right? And these are both like product management, architects, like our strategy, our customers. Yeah, there are multiple sides to that. So now getting to vision itself, right? So usually it is a document, right? So it should be formalized. As already mentioned, of course, this is something subtle, right? This is something understood, or, more of a common knowledge on the existing projects, but this is also a document, right? It's an artifact which has to be created in the beginning of the project, after you did your product discovery, after you really understood what you are building, and you need to describe the product, the objectives, the features, and the users inside of it. So why, how, and what you are building. And, actually, that's the starting point. If you are doing that, and by the way, guys, could you please just put plus in the chat if you are already having product vision documents on your projects, and minus if you are not having them yet, or maybe you haven't used that artifact yet. That would be interesting to see. I will also comment on that. So Irina says plus, Jed mentioned minus, Lyris minus. Yeah, okay, guys, so I guess we are having some different thoughts on that, but again, for those of you who are not yet using them, that will be important to hear. So, and if you are thinking about putting together a document, you can just start very simple. You can just, answer questions like, who are our users? And then you can put your personas on, or you can use, for example, just groups or types of your users, which you, got after analysis of your audience, of your target audience. Then you are analyzing their needs. Again, you already did it by the time when you're creating the vision, but every user, for example, in that financial app example I gave you before, people need to control their expenditures. People need to save money. That's their need behind the product we are building. And then you need to go to functionality, right? You need to describe very briefly. Again, product vision is not a very detailed document in terms of functionality. So you just describe on a very high level what functions do you want to be there. And these are on the level of themes or epics, very, very high level. Again, why? Because that might change with the time. And of course, at the time when you are writing vision, you might not have the full understanding, or the full, detailed vision of your requirements actually for the product. Ideally, you can also add some selling points, some unfair advantages, as we've seen in Osterwalder's business model canvas, for example. business model canvas, by the way, it can be also used as a product vision document. And the final point, especially if you are in enterprise products, but as well if you are creating your startup, it's target time and budget. This is very important because, as already mentioned, vision is also a contract, right? It's not only a document that helps you to keep your team aligned on what we are doing, I mean the development team, but it also something that helps to keep your stakeholders, your clients, your customers aligned, who actually are probably paying for that. So you need to understand your basic schedule and budget. So what amount of money would you need to spend for that to happen? And as promised, now we are moving into the document itself. So the one I've been using for some time, and it is a very simple way to start, is just a vision template by Roman Pichler. So that's a very good start if you don't have anything at the moment for your project. Again, as already mentioned, this will just require you to answer a couple of questions. Again, you can Google it, vision template by Roman Pichler. So that's easy part. Or you can actually, take this slide which you are seeing on this presentation now, and copy or to your project. But what it consists of, right? The vision statement is a short, catchy phrase. I like to use it like, how would you explain your project to your grandma, right? These are just a couple of sentences, inspiring sentences that help to understand why you are doing this. Then you have this target group. I already mentioned that, needs, the product functions, and ideally the value which is brought by your product to your organization. Or if it's a startup, it's actually about the money, right? So how are you going to make money on that? And maybe as well some parts of the cost structure or expenditures that you need to build that product. So that's about the basic vision template. If you're already using that, and you are like good in that, you can actually start using even more advanced template, again, which is also available out there. I also like it very much, and we used it with our teams a lot. So this is the vision, the advanced vision template. And if you are, again, familiar with the Osterwalder's business model canvas, this is quite similar, but from my perspective, a little bit easier to use. So as you see, the top part has actually the same, parts as the previous, the shorter version of a vision, but you are actually just expanding it with the bottom part, where you have also competitors, well, you have revenue streams, where you have cost factors, and where you have channels on how you're going to market, to distribute your product, and actually reach your clients. Again, quite similar to business model canvas, but from my perspective, just a little bit more simplified. Again, and just why I'm showing that to you, that if you don't have that on your project, I mean, like, it's quite easy, even when you are already in process of building your product, it's quite easy to take a step back and to create it. And it will also benefit you, and it will also benefit you, by aligning your team and bringing, the understanding of all the people involved into what we are building. And there is also an option for a workshop. So if you want to run a workshop with your team and to brainstorm on that, so this is also a format that we've used a couple of times during workshops. So this is an elevator pitch based format. So I'm sure you know what is elevator pitch, but again, this is kind of a very shortened way of doing that. So for a target customer who has some need, the product name, which is such type of a product that brings this key benefit. Unlike primary competitor, our product will do this and that. So that's just another way of doing that. But to be sincere, like, this last option is not a document you would like to use throughout your project. It is okay for maybe initial brainstorming, But after you did this, it's better to use some of the previous formats and basically to make it a little bit more detailed, right? Because if it's not, it might be too general or too vague for your team. Yeah, so if you have a document, if you already did your homework and created it and distributed it like within your team, you already did a great job, and it actually helps you, to be more aligned and to avoid a lot of problems with motivation in your team and, with common understanding of what you're building. The other part of, on the first phase of the planning of your project are the other symptoms, I would say. So for example, you are a very, I don't know, maybe you are a very motivated data analyst or a very motivated project coordinator or a developer. And you've been on today's webinar, and you know that the product vision is a very important artifact, and a very important document which you need to have. So you're approaching your product leadership or project leadership and asking them, okay, guys, do we have a vision? Like, that's very important document that will help us to stay aligned and like avoid a lot of problems. And the answer you're actually getting that, yes, we have these problems with understanding the product, but we're actually very busy and we cannot waste time creating a vision, but you can do it by yourself, even if it's not your role. And sometimes I also, I've seen such cases when management, they do not have time for doing that, so they will ask you to do that. So if you do, again, depending on your role, that might not be the best case, of course, because if you are a data analyst, for example, working on the project, you might not have all information to build that vision. But anyway, what I'm telling you here is you have to have a person whose key responsibility is to create a vision, whose key responsibility is to manage and actually communicate this vision to the team, to the stakeholders, to the people involved into the project. And this is actually, the role of a visionary, which you have to have in the beginning of your project. And you need to have that product evangelist, I would say, and usually that should be a product manager. And again, why I'm talking about that in this first phase, because this is the time when you can still raise a flag and say, okay, guys, we don't have a designated product manager, or we don't have a designated product owner, or a person who actually works on the product vision. So let's actually do something about that. Again, but sometimes we do have budget constraints. Sometimes we do have issues with that. So, we might have like business analyst also covering that role, or we can have a project or a delivery manager who is working as well on this product vision and actually helping to build it and to communicate it to the team. So this is something for all of us to understand. So this is the product manager, and you need to understand that you need to have this role out there for your project and to be okay, and for your vision to be alive. Again, in terms of the product management role, for example, again, I like to use scaled agile framework. I'm not saying that's the best model out there, but if you just check their website, which is scaledagileFramework.com, they do have a lot of explanation of that. So that's why I like to use, examples they do provide. So you see, like product managers, they help to align on outcomes, they help to evolve the solution, and they actually are focused on this part of defining the product strategy and vision. So that's why if you are planning to work on vision, you need to have this role on your project. You need to have this particular person who will be working on the vision throughout your project or product build phase. If you won't have this person, or the responsibility will not be assigned to anyone, you will most likely fail in in delivering that vision, in actually managing that vision. So that's why please be aware that you need that role. I know that's probably a simple thing, but sometimes when you are starting something, it might not be there. So yeah, we need to be vigilant on that sense. So the next part, of course, is like development implementation. So after you did the project start and initiation, you move to the build phase, and what symptom you can get there. So I think we've been all through that. When you are building your product, not like for years, it's like, I don't know, year, second year, third year of building your product, you might be losing your focus, right? You might like wandering, in the desert. You don't know where to go. You don't know what were your initial goals. So it's easy to lose focus if you are working on projects for longer periods of time, because when you are doing a short-term project and you create vision for that and still all the people remember it, it's easier to keep everybody aligned. But if you, for example, have a project which runs for 2-3 years in a row, there might be cases when people go, people come, they change, and they do not already remember the vision which was initially on the product, and they don't just have it. So you need to ensure that vision is a part of your daily life, that it is always out there, that when you're building something, that product vision is always part of your focus, of your daily focus. So there are always, of course, tools to make it happen. What is that? So first is user or market needs need to be on top. As mentioned, this is part of the product discovery, but where do they get us? They get us to those vision goals and to those needs, which we discussed before. Then if you do your product splitting, the composition into the specific epics and features. So this is something how it will look like, right? You will need those, you will have those needs, you will have those vision goals, epics, features, and so on. And if you keep this type of hierarchy in your systems, for example, you are using Jira, and you are ensuring that each feature can be traced back to a vision goal, that would be much easier for all the team to keep the focus and to understand why we are actually building that, right? And what product we are actually trying to get to. The other part is, of course, and this is something we are also seeing during the last, I don't know, 5 years, maybe even more, being user-centric. Again, we need to combine design thinking and user-centered design, to be empathetic, to focus on problem solving, on collaboration. Why? Because this also helps us to update our vision. And you cannot use design thinking on or use user-centered design without a vision. Because the first question you will be asked by user experience designers, for example, is where we are trying to get. What are our product discovery results? So what product are we trying to build? And these are all questions which are answered by vision. So if you are user-centric and you are using these approaches, most likely you will also be having a focus on vision throughout all the, the whole process of product development. Again, and this is important in this phase. Also, a very important part is that you need to have requirements with built-in vision. And for example, my personal favorite here is, the approach which is called user stories. I think you are also might be familiar with that as well. But again, if we are talking about these 3 levels, which should be present again, and that map to this hierarchy, which I've been showing here, of requirements. So we have these business requirements or business goals on the top level. Then we have user requirements, or how users want to see our product. Then we have functional requirements, or these are basically instructions on how developers should implement, our product vision and basically product itself. So on the top level, we have this document, which we discussed today, and this is vision and scope. Sometimes it can be even in the format of business requirements document. And on the user requirements and functional requirements level, you can use a user story, which is a very good format. Why I like it? Because first, it focuses on the user, right? It says, as a user, I want this particular functionality, and there is also a so that part, so that I can do something, right? So that I can do something valuable. And it's about also business requirements and user needs. So this gets us back to this vision part, plus acceptance criteria, plus details, which are functional requirements, of course. But again, if you are also using the proper requirements formats, this will also help you a lot in creating this vision focused culture in your team. And the next symptom, which you can see on this build phase, is a scope creep. So what is scope creep? Yeah, I think that we all know what is that, but let's say we have a case, when your client or a customer comes to you and says, okay, let's add these additional 10 features. But team answers like, but they were not in scope, they are not something we actually wanted to build, because yeah, this is something different from what our product needs to look like. But customer says, yeah, but yesterday I saw it, in our competitor's product, so we need to build them now or like tomorrow. So that can be also like a problem, and this can also lead to scope creep as well, if you do that too often. So that's why vision will help you, and like using this traceability will also help you to avoid such issues. And by traceability, I mean, like, for example, you have this requirement structure on your project, right? You have vision, you have epics, you have features, and then your customer or any stakeholder comes with the new feature, which is just not connected to anything, right? It is not connected to any vision goal, which you had discussed before. So that would be an orphan, right? That would be an orphaned feature, and how you should handle them. The first thing, of course, you can discuss it with your stakeholders, saying that, okay, guys, but this feature does not align with our initial vision. It's kind of not what we agreed to build, and probably it will harm our product. That's the first, way you can handle that. Or the other thing, you can say, okay, maybe our product vision has changed. Maybe we want to pivot, right, to be more successful. So in that case, you will just revisit your product vision, and this new function, which is requested by your stakeholder, will just have another vision goal, which will be added to your product, and then the alignment will happen. Yeah, sorry, guys. Again, guys, if any questions, just feel free to stop me at any point and ask, or detail, or, highlight your issues which you have faced with that. Okay, so if no questions, then let's move further. So this is the usage of traceability, right? If this works, then, getting scope creep is much less possible. So, and the final phase here, when you are moving to the user acceptance, some user testing and delivery phase, when you have actually built your product and you are trying to check whether it actually works for your clients. So you might have some issues here as well. So one of them can be release problems, like, this release will never happen, because why do we release this cut beta version of our product? Let's finish the full product and then release it when it looks well, right? And yeah, I know, like such companies as Facebook, for example, they do releases almost every day, multiple times. But, I've seen multiple enterprise products that didn't have releases for months, for 6 months. So that's a problem, and this means that you also have this problem with the vision, but with the vision in terms of the MVP. And again, I think you are familiar with this term, but that would be also interesting to hear from you guys. I would appreciate if you could put plus in the chat if you are using the MVP concept on your product, and minus if you are not using it yet. So again, that would be important for us to understand. Yeah, and meanwhile, I'll just explain that, this minimum viable product, this concept is around for years. It was initially introduced by Eric Ries So he actually said that, minimum viable product is the way how you can build the smallest part of your product, deliver it to your client, receive the basic feedback, and understand whether you will go this way or you need to change and pivot, how you are moving forward. So this is about MVP. Yeah, Alexandra and Jet, thank you for answering. That's great. So hopefully, after our today's session, you will be more inclined in using the MVP approach. So the minimum viable product is a very important concept, and how vision actually helps here. So when you are actually creating your vision, you already need to start thinking what are the smallest parts of functionality of your product, which can be delivered or can be used by your customer, but by your users, by your customers, depending on the product. And you can already start receiving feedback from them on whether it's useful, on whether it is something they really wanted or not. So, and again, this usually also should be part of agreements that you make when creating the vision document, the product vision. So, and in terms of the scaled agile framework, again, I shared a couple of examples today regarding that. There is also a very good process, when you are building hypotheses and you are testing them, and this is the way how you're actually testing your MVP. So let's say you have some epic based on your vision, right? A really large part of functionality you are trying to build. What you are doing next, you are actually trying to build an MVP, right? Minimum viable product on that epic, a very small part of functionality, which will show you whether users like it or not, and whether they want to proceed it or not. And then you need to have this meeting or, this check with your stakeholders where you have proven your hypothesis of this functionality, that it's going to be useful for your clients. And again, if you have proven that hypothesis, then yes, that you need to continue the development. If you didn't prove that, then no, you need to go to pivot. You need to either create new epic and hypothesis, or you need just to stop working on that functionality at all, because it doesn't make any sense for your clients. So this is important to understand the MVP. And again, for those of you who are not familiar with the concept, right, building MVPs, it's not, about only the first version of your product. It's like, like on this picture, this is a very old picture, actually. I'm sure you have seen it, in multiple places, but like usually, how the, like, for example, the car is built, right? You build a wheel, then you build a wheelbase, then you add some frame, and then you add a steering wheel so you can drive. But if you are using the approach on the top, you can't use it as as a transport device at any point of time. However, when we are working on the software, we want to use something like below, right? This approach, when we, for example, we want a transport to be able to, to go to I don't know, to work, and we start with a skate. Yeah, it's very hard to get to your office with a skate, but still it's possible. It's faster than just using your legs. Then the next part can be like using building a scooter, then a bicycle, then a motorcycle, and then a car, right? So, and this is approach actually of MVP. So these are step by step adding value for the user, and that they actually want to use this type. Yeah, and of course, yeah, you need to understand your goals, to understand what is the value for users to build an MVP, and to how to scope it, right? How to actually just select a couple of features to deliver the value, right? So this is the scope management on MVP. In terms of the general, idea here, it's what I was trying to again share today is in order to avoid any problems with visions on your projects, on the products you build. The first is, of course, to define the vision. So that's the very important first step. You need to define the vision. You need to write that document. You need to sit and actually create it, make it available. You will need to have a lot of discussion behind that for that to happen. The next part is you need to use the right techniques for setting, accents on vision. As already mentioned, you need to be using your vision when you're doing your planning. You need to use your vision when you're, for example, doing your decomposition, or, you creating your requirements hierarchy. It's need to be there. And of course, the final part, you will need to keep your teams focused on the vision all the time. And this is also a very important part when the product manager, or the product leader, or sometimes even development leader, they are the people who are actually going to the team and explaining all the time why we are doing that, right? They are just they are repeating that all the time, saying, okay, guys, we are not just building this small feature, just, we are not just laying bricks here. We are trying to build something useful for our clients. We are trying to build something very important for, for humanity, maybe, even this small financial planner application will help a lot of people to save their money and be more mindful about their spendings. So this is valuable, right? We are doing something great. And this is also a very important part of managing your vision and keeping high motivation for your team. So, and of course, you will need to repeat this all the time. So that's, as always with Agile, with Scrum and everything. So you are doing this all the time, right? You are always updating your vision. You're ensuring that this vision is reflected in your day-to-day requirements, in your documents, and that you are, you're keeping that focus, you're keeping that accent on the vision all the time. So that's the goal, and that's actually the thought I wanted to share with you today. And yeah, quickly answering just the question, like, who is that? I think I already told it to you that first, your product manager should ensure that product has vision. And if you are a team member in your team, you need to ask about it, right? Because even if your product manager or your, product leadership did not communicate it properly, or it got lost at some point, you will need to ask about it, because you will be also the consciousness of your project, of your product building. And if you are asking about that, this will also help other, team members keep motivated, and this will be, helping you to be more professional in doing what you do. So that's the things about vision, which I wanted to share with you today, guys. Yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to share. Maybe you have some interesting cases from your side to share. Yeah, so because vision, is about keeping the focus on big goals, on the larger goals, which are there for us. And yeah, we're also going to have a little bit bigger training on that. So we're going to have, the certified training on Lead and Safe in the beginning of June. So you'll have also the discount on 10% using E5 Safe code there. Yeah, and yeah, feel free to contact us at any questions if you have. Yeah, and again, if any discussions, guys, from you, so we still have time to do that now. Okay, a question, I guess, from Alexandra. So Alexandra mentioned, so she's currently a graduating college student. And I think product vision is also very similar to doing project with classmates. The only difference is this is a much professional vision approach that is helpful in the preparation when in an actual workplace. Yeah, sure. Like Alexandra, I guess this is also very important, because to be sincere, like, vision is not only about building software products. It's just about anything we do. And I'm also now currently, I'm also studying, I'm receiving my second master's degree. And even if you are, having a course, a very important, study, this is still, having a vision with your team on what you are trying to achieve, or what you are even trying to achieve in your career. This is also important. So visioning is, is just a really a skill that you will need anywhere else. Yeah, and lastly, this is a great experience to me as well, since most of the time I prefer working alone, then I have difficulty communicating ideas. However, I'm aware that learning to discuss projects with people often is essential, since working with the team are very much likely to happen in the workplace. Yeah, Alexandra, thank you so much for your comment. And the thing I mentioned today, and yeah, maybe I will emphasize it again, that again, having the vision out there is also it actually makes you to communicate. It actually pushes you to have this collaboration, because you won't create a vision just by yourself. You'll need to have those communications. You need to have those stakeholder workshops. You need to have those interviews to create the vision. So, and actually, even creating vision promotes collaboration and teamwork out there. So yeah, guys, so thank you then so much for being with us today. Again, feel free to connect on LinkedIn, on any social media that you are using. Hopefully that was useful for all of us today. And thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Have a great day, and have a great continuation of the week then. Thank you.